Welcome, Web of Wires. I just spent $600 to watch history happen right in front of me. The PlayStation 3 is going to be Sony's best console yet, and the competition won't even be maybe next year. I was around when the PlayStation 3 was released, believe it or not, and although I don't remember my parents pre-ordering this system, I do remember buying a new one after our first one broke. I grew up with the PS3 as my main console from 2006 to 2013. Sorry for whoever feels old. I remember it being the biggest leap for gaming I've ever seen. Fantastic looking games, streaming services like Netflix, and fancy wireless controllers I was not allowed to throw. Don't do that. But that's nostalgia getting in the way. The PS3 kinda sucked, at least at launch.
So here's my duck, stunningly rendered in real time.
Not too many compelling games, with the biggest price on a PlayStation to date. $500 for the base model and $600 for the extra storage. Jesus. Even though the price was high, you gotta give them credit for filling all this hardware into a powerful box. Most of it useless, but it was the cheapest Blu-ray player around for most people. So let's place ourselves back a bit further to the PS2. Now with 155 million units sold under its belt, I think it's safe to say most people were trying to see the value in an upgrade, not a new system. I mean, our family was upgrading from a PS2. There were lots of reasons to upgrade, with the main one being HD video. For those who had a flat screen TV at the time, which I hope you had if you were spending $600 on a console, you were getting a much better picture because it used an HDMI port natively, not some weird AV to HDMI converter upscaler box. Graphically, games didn't really run better, just look better. I feel like if this console was still analog, most people wouldn't be able to tell the difference between the PS2 and PS3 because its biggest graphical upgrades were higher polygon counts and better looking textures, something that couldn't really be seen with a blurry image. What blurred the line even more was the controller. PlayStation tried something with their first console, great, they added these stupid sticks. That's fine, but it could be better. Then Xbox is out here with the 360's controller, still regarded as one of the best ever made. And PlayStation sitting in their chair with the same art project from 1994, but the wire fell off. From a technical standpoint, this is a better controller. They added motion controls and wireless functionality. But I mean, is it really an upgrade? The original 6-axis controller didn't have rumble because it interfered with the gyroscope, so in my eyes, this is a downgrade. Nobody used the gyroscope, and if you did, good for you. Here's a sticker. Now they added the rumble back later in the DualShock 3 controllers, but it didn't really have the same impact. The triggers always felt a bit slippery, joysticks were way too big, the thighs feel a little thin, and the overall build quality feels like something a 3D printer would make today. Now, obviously Sony listened over the years, but easily my least favorite part of turning on the system is holding this piece of crap. Now, I'd love to be that guy that's like, but the game library is the best Sony's ever had. But unfortunately, this isn't true. Those of you who have been around for a while know I love the 7th generation of gaming. Not only was it the last noticeable graphic leap in games, but it was when games stopped really evolving. Sure, you can tell the difference between a PS3 and PS5 game pretty easily, but at their core, gameplay hasn't improved as much as previous generations. Third-party wise, there was some good stuff. I mean, Borderlands 2 alone was worth the PS3. But remember the whole $600 price tag? Well, this technology wasn't anything new. I mean, technically, yes, it was, and it was more powerful, but it was harder to develop for compared to the Xbox 360. So not only has Xbox 360 been growing an audience for a year now, but sales were the lowest Sony has ever experienced in the home console market, and still are. So due to a smaller audience and more complicated hardware, most third-party games ran and looked better on the 360, even though the PS3 was a better piece of hardware. Most of the time it isn't noticeable, but games like the Orange Box released to a complete disaster with it being almost unplayable. It's safe to say that a bit of trust was lost on which third-party games would be playable. But exclusives were never a debate. You had your couple games on launch that didn't look the best, but later games like The Last of Us, Uncharted 3, Beyond Two Souls, you can tell these are PS3 games, I won't deny that. But I distinctly remember bringing my sister into the room, telling her to look at how beautiful the lighting is, the reflection, all the little animation details. From a graphical standpoint, it is not the world's best game, but visually, it is one of the most impressive games I have ever seen. And then I said it was a PS3 game ported to PS4, and she was immediately shocked. Now, the original game looks like a dog's chew toy compared to the newer games, but even today, people are debating on whether a game from 2013 running on 2006 hardware looks better than its remake. Personally, I think it does. Mostly. I don't know, but I spent $500 to play this game day one, so I don't care. But I think my point is at least getting across that yes, the PS3 isn't anything crazy today. Third-party games existed, were phenomenal, but were slightly better on the 360 for the most part. But I don't care what people think, they're still modern games. GTA 5 is still being played by many, Persona 5 is often regarded as one of the best RPGs to play on PS4, even though it was also a PS3 game. Look at Demon's Souls, which was a launch title for PS5. At its core, it is the exact same game as the PS3 version, but is regarded as one of the best PS5 games to play today. I go back to the system and often play a game or two not for nostalgia or retro purposes, but because most games haven't aged, and the ones that have feel better than most PS2 games out there. I want to make this perfectly clear. Most games on the system do not feel brand new. Again, look at this thing. This is half the issue. But it doesn't feel that old either. And then you remember that this system embraced online. PlayStation Plus, we've all heard of it by this point. It started on the system as Sony's online service. It would give you a couple games each month to keep forever, games would update while your system was offline, upload saves to the cloud, and get this, playing games online was still free. Xbox was over here charging you $60 for the Wi-Fi card, then $60 a year to play online. That didn't come with games until after Sony, then you had to buy a headset, but the headset would only allow you to talk with friends, and you couldn't hear the game out of it, but then the Kinect released and sat in front of your TV, which solved the mic issue. You're probably already bored of me talking. PlayStation went old-fashioned. Click play online, boom, you're in. No hassle. Invite your friends if you need, but it just worked. I've never had a poor experience with PlayStation 3 online servers until recently because, but Xbox always had issues with online, and you had to pay for a Wi-Fi card and their service. That's stupid, I hate Xbox. But it was the biggest innovation of this generation. Even though online gaming wasn't a new thing, it was integrated in such a way where talking to your friends, booting up a game and playing wasn't just the world's biggest issue anymore. You all had profiles, trophies, you could send messages, join parties with multiple people. It was just an old version of what we have now. It's still a cool concept, nothing changed. And now you have games like It Takes Two that thrive off this idea, and services like Discord that connect you to more than just one device. Mobile apps for these systems allow us to shop for games and download them on the go, something I find myself doing often with PlayStation Plus Premium and Xbox Game Pass, something which I feel spawned off the monthly games idea Sony had. The PlayStation 3 was the birth of modern gaming, and a console that will be regarded as one of the best retro systems to play for years to come. But what were Xbox and Nintendo doing? We know a bit of what Xbox has been doing already because, what isn't Xbox doing outside of making worthwhile games? PlayStation was very obviously paying attention to the competition because of their marketing decisions. When Xbox had Xbox Live Gold, PlayStation had PlayStation Plus. And it worked the same way with their games. Even though they didn't have their Halo, Uncharted was a great competitor to Gears of War. It took that same cover-based shooter formula and gave it an intriguing story. PlayStation and Xbox were neck and neck, but Nintendo? What is going on here? The Kinect, Microsoft's answer to the Wii Remote. It was the game controller with no controller, making games like Just Dance much more accurate, and games like bowling much more soulless. It was neat at the time, and now it's being used in a bunch of ways like cheap alternatives to full body tracking in virtual reality. If you're interested to hear more about the 360 story, I made a full video about that I'll leave at the end of this video for you to watch. But PlayStation had something different up their sleeve. Something very similar to the Wii, but with much more accurate controls. It had the PlayStation Move. I grew up with one of these. It used a camera to track these lights along top of the gyroscope inside. Not only did it make the accuracy of the tracking much more reliable, but it added depth to the environment. It wasn't just some computer telling the system, hey, he rotated the controller right and now it's kinda moving forward. It was impressive technology at the time, and most people who bought it also had sports champions. There was a bundle pack that came with this game, so it made sense. I lost my PS3 camera, so it's hard to say what this game is like today, but from what I remember, it was alright. Nothing great, nothing special, just alright. There were some fun games like archery, disc golf, and this sword fighting game. All the other games are kinda just a blur to me. Ping pong I kinda remember too. But it didn't feel like a PlayStation 3 game. It felt like I transformed the PS3 into a Wii. And that's what this always felt like, just a Wii for PlayStation owners. I got the most use out of Just Dance and iPad, but that's about all we did with it. iPad was pretty fun though. Nowadays, the PlayStation Move is being used as the PlayStation 4 VR controllers, which is a great use for them. Like I said earlier, it could track a little bit of depth, so having actual depth with 2 cameras make it an easy and cost-efficient way to reuse the same technology. They aren't the best VR controllers on the market by far, but from a business perspective, it only made sense to take advanced experimental hardware back in the day and use it on their new experimental hardware. And that's really what the PlayStation 3 was, an experiment. Remember, it had to innovate in so many different areas that perfecting it was nearly impossible, no matter how much money you poured into it. Not only was it a year late to the market, but it was the beginning of HD gaming, Blu-ray support, subscription services, online video, online shopping, motion controls, multimedia devices, not to mention the PSP and PS Vita coming soon to follow. The amount of work that had to go into this console just to exist is impressive, and now leaves the way for all these features to be perfected. Online video shopping and subscription services shine with Xbox Game Pass Ultimate and PlayStation Plus Premium. Games in HD look better than ever. The download speeds for online video and online shopping almost eliminated Blu-ray support entirely. Motion controls now exist in pretty much every console to exist. This is a complicated system and something emulation can barely get right today. But to cut it some slack, there will never be a console that requires this much effort without a single corner cut. It had everything when Microsoft couldn't even use an HDMI port, Blu-ray discs, and wireless Wi-Fi without some sort of workaround that the consumer had to pay for. The PlayStation 3 wasn't just another system. It wasn't just another PlayStation. It was a system where play had no limits. Innovative, fun, and carefully put together. It's ironic that the system that had a PS2 fully baked into it, just to have full backwards compatibility, is now almost impossible to emulate. But you know what? That's okay, because I never have to use that controller again. I am burning it tonight.